Geographical farming is the fundamental way to build your real estate business. So what I wanted to do was to compile all of the interviews, or a few of the interviews that I've done with some of the best people in the business about how to identify your best farm, what you should be prepared for. I'm going to give you that in the first video. The second video, I'm going to be speaking with Craig Duran. Craig is going to talk about, and he's probably the best person I've ever seen at building farms and generating revenue through geographical farming. Then we're going to talk to Molly Slagle, and she talks about what she does to identify exactly how what she looks for in a farm, what she does to follow up with that farm, and what she does to maximize the opportunity for listings in those farms. And last but not least, you're going to hear from Jason Gruner, who is really farming luxury neighborhoods in a very unique way. And that'll give you some insight on maybe some different things you can do in luxury markets that'll help you as well. I know this is going to be helpful. Dive in, take some notes, and at the end of this, you're going to know more about geographical farming than 95% of the agents in real estate today. I hope it helps, and I'll talk to you guys soon. In today's real estate market, there's one skill. If I could only teach one skill or do one skill, it would be farming. It's the basis of this business. It has been for generations, and it's still now more important than ever. So today what we're going to do, I've got Price Rayner with me. After taking thousands of listings, we're going to go through and show you guys exactly how to evaluate a farm, how to go in and become the expert, and then how to market yourself in a way that gives you market share like never before. All right, Price, so what's good about this is I think if you and I could go back and talk to ourselves when we first started the business a few years ago, we would say to our younger selves, start sooner farming, do more farming, and it's the foundation of everything that we've ever built. I mean, ultimately, this is how we've built the business, our individual businesses over the years. So what I want to do today is I want to go through and really dive into what does this look like. I want to take it from day one. Let's say that we're talking to an agent that maybe has done some farming, wants to do farming, or is looking to expand into other areas. Let's talk and let's start really about evaluating the right place, because sometimes we can miss that. What would you say as far as evaluating the right place?
Well, Jimmy, I think to evaluate the right place, it requires going out and doing a little due diligence, getting, starting to really just dive in to any particular community that you're interested in and digging into the numbers.
Yeah.
Really. We get so caught up sometimes in the aesthetics of a community. We go out and we fall in love with, say, the retreat, because you wind down the road, you get there. But and that's part of the process. But really the key to evaluating what neighborhood should become your farm is the numbers. You need to look for some particular things. You need to look for a community that really doesn't have a dominant listing agent.
Right.
That I call that a fragmented market, where you have several players possibly that have a little bit of market share each. Right. You have a significant number of homes so that the numbers work for you to invest in that community. And then that's really the long and short of it. It's just as easy as that, is to and really a price point that you're comfortable working. Some people go in, they want to go after the again back to the retreat, the $3, $4, $5 million average sale price of a community, when really they need to be cutting their teeth on something that maybe isn't quite there in that 5 to 700 range maybe, or something like that, where they can compete and win. Yeah,
I mean, bottom line is we want to find a place that's got rotation, number of houses that are sold, a dollar volume that makes the numbers make sense, and a place, like you say, that doesn't have, it's not that we don't want competition, but it's just, if we're going to swim, let's swim downstream.
Yeah,
let's
sure.
find a place where we can take market share, not just a small amount, but where we've got an opportunity to be a dominant player in a neighborhood. So let's get into the numbers. All right, so really when we're looking at the numbers, we're going to look at a couple of things. We want to look at the average sales price for the neighborhood. I'm going to do this to make the numbers a little easier. I mean, if your average sales price is higher or lower, this will give you an idea of at least how to do this. So I'm going to use a neighborhood that has 300 homes for sale in it, 300 homes that are actually in the neighborhood. On average, we should anticipate that we should have 10% of that market turnover, so we should have 30 sales per year in that neighborhood. I'm not even going to talk about the fact that there are buyer sides, so really there's 60 opportunities for transactions sides, but I just want to focus on the sales side from the listing side because we're focusing on farming a neighborhood. So if there's 30 sales and the average sales price is $400,000, that tells us there's $12 million worth of total volume in there. Now, if we're looking at these numbers also, let's just use these numbers. If it's $400,000 and your commission is 2.5%, just to make it easy, that's $10,000. And then times that, let's just use an average split of 75%. You're at $7,500 net out on an average transaction in there. Well, if we're looking at 30 sales, or on average 30 sales in that neighborhood per year, if we get 10% of the market, that's kind of the key number. We want to make sure we can get at least 10% in the first year. We should dominate and do more than that, but at least 10%. If we get 10% of the sales, that means on average with that average sales price that's $7,500 net out to us as far as commission, we're going to have an income of around between $20,000 and really $22,500. Now, if there's 300 homes in there, I like to use this as a factor to figure out, okay, what's my expense going to be? So what are the numbers to make sense? It may not be on the front, but I always like to use the number of $2 per house per month. Now, this is going to be a mix. We're obviously going to be using direct mail. We're going to be using phone calls. We're going to be going into some details on how you can market in that neighborhood in just a minute. But on the average, I figure $2 per home per month to really market and to farm that neighborhood. So if there's 300 houses times $2, pretty easy. It's going to be $600 per month. $600 per month times 12 months, because we need to have a commitment to see. I think the way that Hunter always says is you got to soak the bait, so to speak. So we want to make sure that we give it enough time. So if we're doing 12 months, that's $7,200. Not, with my easy Walton County education, that's pretty easy to see that if we just take 10% of that market share, we're going to have basically about a 3x or a little more than that on that. And it only takes one sale, one listing for us to break even for the year in there. Now we got something we can work with. Now this gets us back to kind of what does it make sense to do on the next step now that we've found that place that makes sense for us. All right, so now we've chosen kind of the neighborhood that makes sense. The numbers make sense. There's an opportunity. There's no dominant player. Now let's talk about how do we become the expert, because reality, that's the first step, finding the neighborhood. But listen, if you don't know what's going on in the neighborhood, you're going to squander opportunities because they will come. So what would you do as far as research to start looking at becoming that expert?
Sure, I would do a historical deep dive on the community. I would go back, whatever the time frame is, 5 or 10 years. You can, do this through the MLS. If you need any help, anybody needs help doing that, they can contact us and we'll help them, show them how to do this. But I would get the number of homes sold, the average price of the home sold, price per square foot, and days on the market, and list price to sales price. Those are the key stats, that you need to know, so that you can, have the information so that you can be deemed the expert in the community.
Right. And like you're talking about, it would basically be a basic spreadsheet that would show those things for each year. So it would show the average appreciation on an average on the price per square foot. It would show how days on market were trending over the last 4 or 5 years. It would talk about all those different things where you can see those. I know you've done this for a while. I think it's so critically important too is to know the seasonality of those neighborhoods.
Yeah, for
Can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. I would have 2 pages on my spreadsheet. In the second, I would just have a monthly breakdown of those annual sales, by month, January, February, March, etc., through the year. So you can see, one, the seasonality, and then you can compare, month over month. You can see where do that seasonality, where that strength is. So when you're talking to someone, you can say, hey, it's December, things start to pick up, phone calls pick up after the Super Bowl maybe, and we start to see sales happen in March and April. We really need to, start, planning for listing this home now so that we can do all the things we need to do so the property will be market ready the beginning of February, or whatever that is for your particular market.
And that's something that I've always done too, because if I see that 3 months from now is the peak of the activity, we were talking about $2 per month. There's some months it's just one mailer. There's some months it's just calling. But really where we're ramping up is that 3 to 4 month time period ahead of time where we're ramping into that strength. We're preparing that. We're really almost tenderizing, I guess you could say, the people so that they know us, they begin to like us, and they trust us. And so as we get through all of that, now we're getting to a place where now we can really sing what those are. We can communicate it, which we'll talk about in a minute. The other thing I would do is I would suggest every single place that's on the market in that neighborhood, go preview those houses. Get to where you know those houses. Know which ones have sold. Know which ones are for sale. That way it gives you a better idea that when you get the opportunity and someone calls based on that, they say, I've got a family member that's coming to town, or can you tell me about that house? You've been in the house. You know what it is. You know how to compare it to the opportunity you get to list. when you get that where you're that expert and you know the properties, you know the numbers, the second that the call comes, it almost becomes second nature. Yes. Now you've got the details, or you can pull your spreadsheet up and say, well, yeah, this time, just historically speaking, we're about 2 months out from the peak. So if you're thinking about getting ready to sell, probably we need to be really thinking about in the next 30 days, preparing this to get it ready to go. Does it make sense?
Yes.
I would just say this too. Once you get to the place where you know how to market and you know how to basically, the place you're at, you know the numbers, now you feel confident in those experts. I would say the next step is then the execution of the plan. Yeah. All right, so let's get to the execution side of it, because really this is where the rubber meets the road. Listen, you can have all the information in the world, but until you take action on it, it's irrelevant. So now let's talk about a typical plan of action, because there are steps, there are processes that everybody should be using. Sure. So let's talk about that. What's the foundation of this as far as the execution?
Data harvest is the first part, going and getting all the contacts in that community, whether it's through, the property appraiser's website or some other sites that you can speak to, but going and getting, names, addresses, phone numbers, email address, any of that you can get, or the more of that you can get, the better, Right. So once I've, gotten my information, now it's, deploying the asset, which is, direct mail, phone calls, those are the main two items that I would use in my as my arrows, if you will, to attack this community. And from a perspective of a direct mailer, I would send them things that were just listed, just sold, things that are informational. Maybe that's not a postcard or something. It's just an envelope with your statistics that we just talked about. You modify those, the home sold, the average price, days on market, list price to sale price. You put that on a piece of letterhead, write them a couple paragraphs where you describe what's going on, and send that out periodically. Maybe some, in addition to that, maybe you rotate in some things that are happening in the community or in the area, just as a little lanyard for them, a little extra, and then making phone calls, calling them and just checking in on them, seeing how they're doing, how they're enjoying their property, if they're getting your information, if there's anything you can do for them. It's very simple. You don't have to pursue it to the close on the first phone call. It's just a matter of building rapport. So back to your point from that you touched on earlier, it's so that they know, like, and trust us, and we get the at-bat when the time comes.
That's right. Yeah, and I'll say this, just from a data harvest standpoint, obviously the actual having the mailing addresses, the correct mailing addresses is critically important. I would spend some time there, like you mentioned, tax rolls, or there's other, through the MLS even, there's opportunities to get a neighborhood's mailing list. As far as phone numbers, Forewarn is a great one that, our local MLS provides, or it's available, I believe, for people to purchase. Also, I would say if you're looking at it from a standpoint of making sure that you're getting accurate information as best as possible, the phone numbers you're going to refine as you're going through this. But Cole Realty Resource is another place to get phone numbers. There's tons of activity. I mean, it's not hard to find the phone numbers now. Nothing's really that private. The other thing I would say is the ability to find email lists is critically important if you can. So if you're going to farm your own community, for instance, odds are that your HOA has a contact list for everyone in the neighborhood. Take that information, put it into a spreadsheet where you can do this. Use something like MailChimp. Do an email, and it doesn't cost you anything. And supplement that with the mailers. I know we did this, and it's been a situation where that's been very helpful, because we're getting, if you title it correctly, where it's like, Live Oak subdivision, September sales report. It's opened at a 70% clip in many cases, when the industry average is 16%. So the more personalized you can make the email, the better. We've even had places where we've had people we've sold to in a neighborhood that give us the HOA. Listen now, I'm not telling you to spam anybody. You want to do that. That's, but I've never had anybody complain when we just added value. So everything we're doing, we're not even asking for business, to be honest, in those emails. From that standpoint, it's just, here's our active pending solds, here's an update on the average sales price. It's sharing that document that you're talking about, where they can get an idea that you really are the expert, and then just being systematic. A couple things I would just say that are just, and then we're going to get into some creative ways to market in these neighborhoods. Every month something needs to go out. Every month a mailer needs to go out. Every month, if at all possible, an email needs to go out. Every month, call needs to go out. Now, the calls, there's a couple ways to do this. There's no way that it's any better than if you talk to them on the phone. This is not, do you want to list your house? What would you say that conversation would be on those initial calls?
Oh, it's just, introducing yourself, asking them, hey, I see you own a property in Forest Lakes. How are you enjoying it?
Yeah.
And let them talk. People are excited to talk about their property at the beach. Most of them don't live here.
Yeah.
And then just after they answer that question, say, hey, have you been getting what I've been sending you? Something like that. Yeah, okay. Well, great. Ask them if they find it relevant or if they enjoy getting it. Let them talk, and then just kind of adjust to what they say, and then just softly say something towards the end is do you mind if I continue to send you things, call you periodically? I'm not going to bug you. I'm not going to hammer you every day. Yes, it's not the way I do this. I'm going to check in with you every month, 2 months, 6 months. What's best for you?
Right.
And really tailor your approach to them, and you'll find that they're usually very open to that.
Yeah, I would say this too. I mean, I think it all changed for me when I got to a point where, you and I grew up in the original time frame when we started. It was ABC, always be closing.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's tired. It doesn't work anymore.
Right.
And so when I made the switch to where it was just, I just want to talk to people. I just want to see if I can help them today.
Provide them information.
That's all it is. There's no pressure on me. There's no pressure on them. And I will tell you, the second that I did that, that's when everything began to switch to where those conversations began to really move them down that know, like, and trust. And so once that happens, I mean, it's really just, hey, if you don't mind me keeping up with you, I'll check in with you every 6 months. Hey, I do an email report if you don't have an email address, for them. And just, I do a monthly email report. Love to keep up with you that way if that's something that you're interested in. Most, if you're cool, they'll be cool usually. So it's a way to reach out and really just start building that. And you've got to understand, the averages are it takes 7 to 10 impressions of someone seeing you before they recognize you. So you have to understand that when you send your first mailer out, I know most people, the first time they send, I did it, they send their first mailer out and they're like, why haven't I gotten a response? It's going to take some time. It's going to take some repetition. On the front end, I would say this is another way, especially if you've got time, is to don't necessarily have to send them postcards like everybody else. Some of the most effective things I did was I would send them a letter in an envelope and hand address it. Now, there are some things out there, if you'll just Google, handwriting software where you can send in your stuff, send out cards as one. It will actually use your handwriting and cursive writing to do that. That personalized will get it open, a stamp that's put on it versus that. And listen, some people are like, well, I don't have time for that. That's fine if you don't have time for it. But if you're trying to build, and you're trying to build rapport, I promise you those are going to open more and recognize more.
Yeah, it does. And in addition to that, just another creative kind of touch for that is I would write thank you cards to folks. If I spoke to them on the phone, if they took the time to answer the phone and talk to me, I wrote them a handwritten note and put 2 business cards in there. And it was as simple as saying, hey, thank you for taking the time to speak with me the other day. If there's ever anything I can do for you, your family, or friends, don't hesitate to contact me.
Yeah.
Enclosed is 2 business cards, sincerely Price.
Yeah.
And just...
It's so good. And let me tell you some creative ways too, because these are things really where you just take it to the next level. Because there are a lot of people that are sending mailers, but they're not following up with phone calls. That's the gas on the fire, so to speak.
Sure.
The next way is to really get involved in that community. So here's some things that we're seeing right now. I'm seeing in a number of different places. A food truck night that you sponsor. So listen, if you've got 300 homes there, that's going on, have a night where you co-op with the HOA and say, hey, listen, I'd like to sponsor having this in here. I'm going to take care of getting them there. I'm going to provide desserts or whatever it is you're going to do, or you're going to pay for, half of the meals. I mean, it's worth it, literally to do something like that to get yourself out there. Whatever it is for you and your budget deems, but doing that and then have your whole team there. Brand it up. Be there and just be there just to meet people, talk to people, just say hello, introduce yourself. It's a great way right now. Another one is if it's a neighborhood that has a lot of children in it, do a Saturday where you've got an ice cream truck that comes and have it where, literally you can be the one that's walking with it, hand those out to those kids. The families are coming out, attach something that brands it up for you that's going to be taken back to the house, or as the parents come out, introduce yourself to them, set up for an hour or two. Utilize that. If you co-op it with the HOA, then the HOA will get the information out for you, which is, it's almost like they're signing off on you being the expert and the person for the neighborhood. If you find a neighborhood, which is hard to do these days, if you find a neighborhood that does not have a Facebook community group, set it up yourself. Be the administrator. Get it out. Let some of the owners or friends that you have in the neighborhood begin to share that. Everybody joins in. It becomes the centralized spot for information for the neighborhood. As the administrator, you control the information. I would not go in there blasting people with sales data, but I would every so often say, hey, we've got a house coming on the market, and we wanted to make sure everybody had a chance to pick their neighbor first. So before we put it on the market next week, if you guys know anybody, let us know. You're showing them activity, but you're not slamming it on them, if that makes sense. And then also HOA meetings. Be willing to sponsor lunches. Be willing to say, hey, listen, I know you guys have got this. I would like to send a food truck and buy lunch for everybody at the HOA meeting. Something along those lines. And I'm telling you, when you get, people want somebody that's involved in their community. You know, they don't do business with a mailer. You know, and we used to talk about this where it was people, if you're looking at it from a standpoint of is everybody used to be, I'm number one, I'm this. I mean, you can do that for everybody. People don't care anymore. It's the old Maya Angelou. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So present yourself in a way to that neighborhood. Go in there and do those things. Listen, I want to wrap this up and just kind of put a bow on this in a real kind of practical way. The biggest thing is you got to pick the right neighborhood. Do it for 12 months. Have it that way. Some of the best people will take 3 neighborhoods. They'll do the same messaging, the same program for 9 to 12 months, and then they'll figure out this one's a winner. I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna plow in here, and I'm gonna get rid of those that aren't. Or these 2 are good. Whatever it is, be knowing that you're in a neighborhood where there's opportunity first. You got to be in the water to catch the wave. Find the right waves. The second thing is know everything about the neighborhood. Know it backwards and forwards. And then lastly, make sure that you're presenting yourself in a way that is helpful to those people. Direct mail, phone calls, being a part of the neighborhood. If you do those things, man, we've seen it. I mean, every single time we've ever done this, it's an if-then proposition. Right. Anything you'd like to add as far as farming and the need for it?
No. I mean, just do it. Just pick the area, deploy the things we've talked about here today, and you will be successful. I think you said it. I mean, it's an if-then. If you will do these things, then these things will happen. We've done it time and time again where we've approached new communities and deployed these tactics, and we've gained market share every time we've been consistent with it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work a one and done or a two and done. You got to commit to the process. If you will, it's tried and true. It will bear fruit.
I will say this too. We talked about running the numbers on the first year. Mm-hmm. A minimum of gaining 10%. Mm-hmm. We've done this, you and I have done this, where we're getting 40-50% of a neighborhood within 14 months, and the numbers get stupid then. That's right. So it's really just the execution of finding the right places. Next up is Craig Duran out of Panama City Beach, Florida, and he also services a part of the 30A market. One of the things that I love about the way Craig does this is he's probably one of the best business people I've ever seen. He sets his schedule up in a way where he shuts it down in the afternoon. He controls, by controlling these listings and by controlling his farming techniques, he controls his schedule in a way that gives him time to have balance in his life. You're really going to learn a ton from Craig in this one, and I know if you just simply apply what he does, you're going to get results. All right, guys, I am super excited today because I've got my buddy Craig Duran. This is one of these, we've been talking about this for a little while. I'm really excited because as you and I have gotten to spend some time together, I'm not trying to do anything here to just kind of brush your ego, but the more time I spend with you, the more I really love the way you do your business. I mean, to me, just to be perfectly frank, it's probably the best setup as far as the way you control your time, manage your time, and everything. And so I'm really excited about the value we're going to add to some other agents out here today. So if somebody doesn't know you, if you don't mind, just kind of tell them a little bit about yourself, kind of where you're from originally, how you got in the business, that kind of thing.
All right. It's good to hear that. That intro is good to hear because that's something, we're in business planning mode right now, right? Mm-hmm. So one thing I'm constantly struggling with is time management. To me, that's important. So it's interesting to hear you say that. I appreciate it. I grew up in Las Cruces, New Mexico. I played a lot of music, middle school, high school. I was in a lot of symphonic bands, had a lot of private lessons and things like that. I went to school in Jacksonville, University of North Florida. I went over there, I was going to be a famous jazz musician. They had a really, really excellent jazz program over there. They had a lot of money and some endowments and brought in master artists. Our semester would be like 2 weeks of classes. Branford Marsalis would be there for a week of class. The whole Count Basie band would be there for 2 weeks. Another week of class, Pat Metheny would be there. And there was 4 or 5 years of that. And it put out, there's all kinds of talent there. So I was living in Jacksonville. I moved to Panama City Beach to take a job with a band. There was a band that was playing 5 or 6 nights a week, this little show band that had played during tourist season. And I was going to move to the beach for about 6 months, 8 months, save a little money, and move up to New York and be a famous jazz musician with everybody else. That's 1997. And so here with 2019, I'm still at the beach. But I was still playing some music. I got serious with a girl and working at a golf shop daytime to support my golf habit, and then playing music at night. And we got engaged, and I bought this house. And I remember distinctly hooking up my dryer, and sitting there as I was hooking up the vent for the dryer, I sat there and said, "Man, I've got to do something if I'm thinking about family more than golf shop in the day, musician at night, out till 1 or 2 in the morning." So I stumbled into real estate. I knew some people who were in the business. My mom had told me, she says, "Why don't you go run and get your real estate license?" Everyone's getting their real estate license, right? It's 2003.
Right.
So I kind of got in the side door like a lot of people. I didn't have a great plan for it. I think what was appealing to me about it was that it seemed to me that it would always be a little bit different. The thing I like about music, you could play the same song 50 times and it could come out 50 different ways. Right. So same thing with real estate. You're always working in different situations, working with different people. So that was appealing. So 2003, spent a lot of time learning contracts, learning the business, and all of a sudden 2004 and 2005 are on us. So I did really well, relatively speaking, to golf store paycheck, musician paycheck. So I did okay for 2004 and 5, and then 2006-07 happened, and I realized pretty quickly that I didn't really know what I was doing as far as running a business.
Right.
I went from, I don't remember how many transactions, but probably 40 or 50 transactions in a year to, I remember one year was really tough. It's like 5 transactions in the year. And was in a really tough spot too. Went through separation, divorce, I had like a lot of new agents, had bought a lot of real estate like a lot of people had. And of course, trying to manage all that as everything is kind of crumbling down. I looked around, and my mom had gotten into the real estate business in New Mexico after 20 plus years in foundation work. And she says, "Hey, have you ever thought about a coach?" She's trying to find any way she can help me. You know? And I said no. And this was kind of right when coaching was coming along. Yeah. She says, "Well, I'm going to buy you 3 months of coaching as a gift." She says, "I met this guy, and I just want you to try it out, see what you think." I said, "Hey, I'm up for trying anything," because of my real estate business, there wasn't a business. So I started working with this guy. That was probably 2007 or early 2008, end of 2007.
Market's still struggling.
And went from, I remember the first year we were working together, I'd done 5 deals the previous year, and I think I did 16 or 18 the next year. And then it's kind of went from there. And
16 to 18 in 08, 07 was like doing 60 right now.
Right.
I mean, it was tough.
Yeah, and what I learned, what I was really thankful for and lucky and blessed all at the same time was that I was introduced to someone that helped me realize that we are running a business, a little small business, and helped me build some skills that you need in real estate, but also got me thinking about and teaching me the things you need to be thinking about and learning to run a business. It doesn't matter what the business is, but there's some fundamentals in business that you need to think about. So that's the long version of how I got into it and how things got going.
So obviously things are good now. To kind of give everybody a rough idea of kind of over your lifetime of business, number of transactions, maybe some kind of numbers for where you're at now, so that kind of people understand where your business is
now.
So
since 2003, to like 690-ish transactions, 190-ish million closed volume.
Great. And continue to build a team now and kind of really moving into that area now?
Yeah. 4 or 5 years ago, I needed some help, probably just because once you hit 45, 50 transactions, you need some help. So hired an assistant. I didn't really know what to do with the assistant. I just knew I needed help. I didn't have a plan. Went through a couple iterations of admin help, and that's just sort of moved on to multiple people in that position. And then now, really in the last 5 or 6 months, bringing some agents on to try to help help them and kind of grow the thing.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, what's kind of cool too is because you and I've talked a lot about this, is your vision on this is it does help the business, but there's a bigger deal to help those agents and kind of almost feed into them the way you've been fed into.
Yeah, my mindset on the team is to try. I don't want to be the CEO agent with a bunch of agents doing work for me. I would rather just find a handful of people at this point and just try to make them the best agents they can be.
Right.
And help them. I think there's a lot of models out there that focus on keeping the team agents working in areas that maybe don't really help them build a career.
Right.
I want to show you the listing side. I want to show you the buying side. I want to really build you into an agent that can really be a good professional in the industry.
Right. I love that model too, because I've had agents, even this week when I'm talking about helping agents build a team or thinking about buyer's agents, and they're like, well, what happens though if I invest in them and a year from now they go do something else? I don't want, this superstar agent that's just going to grow out of that position. And I heard someone say it this way, and it was the best analogy I'd ever heard. And this guy's comment was that he had rolled his team over 8 times in 9 years. And he is one of the top producers, as I remember, in Texas. And the whole concept was he said, I want to be, if you're using the basketball analogy, I want to be John Calipari as the coach, basically. And I want to go recruit the best players possible. And they're not going to be with me for 4 years. I know that going in. Mm-hmm. But every year I'm going to compete because I got the best talent. And when they graduate, he goes to the draft with them and celebrates with them. You know what I mean? And because he's built that culture of my job is to help you move you along to your own business, he attracts the best talent possible. And I think that, to me, makes a lot of sense. I think we get to a place sometimes as team leaders or where we're just thinking, oh gosh, it's you lose the focus. And when you start focusing on how does this benefit the agent, ultimately it comes back to the number of transactions. We've seen it on your volume. We've seen that happening with your team. I mean, the more you invest in your team, the more it comes back to you in spades, and not just financially.
Right. And I think early on, I was really hung up. Sometimes when you start running, when you're thinking about the business, you get hung up on all the numbers and how do I make this number get here, and how can I be more profitable over here, and all that kind of thing. But I think when you get into, at least my take on it, if you're gonna get into running the team, it's about people and helping people grow. And it's not the numbers on the page. It's about helping people move along and what do they want to do in their life? How can you help them get there?
Right. So let's go back to what you talked about, where you began to look at some of the fundamentals of growing a business. What are some of those fundamentals that you still apply today?
Well, I was introduced to the basics, lead generation. We have to have some people to talk to. We have to have some leads created. Once we can create those leads, it's lead conversion. It's something else to work on. And once you have lead generation, lead capture, lead conversion. So once we're doing some things to create the leads, then how are we going to capture those leads that we've created for ourselves, and then how are we going to convert those that we've captured and turn those into business? So just understanding that early on, understanding the concepts of that early on was important. And then there's so many different ways to do it, which is something else that's really appealing about this business for me, and is appealing about growing a team, because watching them all, they want to do things a little bit different, and knowing that, hey, you can do it this way, you can do it this way, and it all still works.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And what's kind of interesting to me is like you say, because there's different times where we're focused more on one part of it than one time, on the conversion, we're focused more on, well, we got to get some more in here. And so it's constantly changing on the areas that we need to refine and to get better at. So what, let's kind of, because in reality, it's been basics for you. I mean, as I've watched your business grow, it's just the compounding effect of consistently adding value, consistently doing the foundational basics of blocking and tackling, so to speak. So what if you could go back, what do you wish you would have done more of earlier, and what do you wish you wouldn't have done, possibly?
That's a loaded question. I'd be curious to know what you think I would answer before I answered it.
Yeah, I think you would have begun farming.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
See, I know your business, my man. Come on, man.
Right. Yeah, farming. For me, farming's done very, very, very well. And I think for a few reasons, probably the biggest one is the consistency of it. Mm-hmm. I've had points where I might not have felt like I had a great message to send out, or I might, something might be due to send to the farm, and I might not have quite the right thing, or I might have mismanaged my time and not had things ready. But I always made it a point to just get it out. Something's got to get out on a schedule.
Right.
So there's the consistency there. But yeah, farming for me has been great on the lead generation side.
So how do you do that now so that you don't get to the end of the month and be like, oh, I got to send a mailer out here in 2 weeks? Do you schedule things out in advance for a few months, or do you plan it? How does this look for you?
Farming started with, I picked, I don't know why I picked 2 farms originally. I was working in an office that was on site at a condo project. Mm-hmm. And then there was a traditional primary residential neighborhood just on the other side of where the office was. So I picked this building just because I thought that would make sense. That I didn't know it at the time, but there is a real perception with ownership in a project that, the guy across the street sells this project. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times, pre-construction and things like that, they do sell only the building. But so I picked that building, and I picked this neighborhood there that was close. Picked the neighborhood because of the proximity, and I felt like I wanted 2 different products. Mm-hmm. If I'm building the business, I wanted to diversify a little bit. So it started with handwritten letters. I typed a 1-page letter. I hand signed every single one of them and hand addressed every single one of them. Mm-hmm. And so we're talking probably 396 here, 400 over here. Mm-hmm. And I still remember the days of recruiting, my wife, my kids, my dad helping me address it. Yeah,
I know.
And I probably wouldn't have stayed with farming. I had some real early success. I didn't have a lot of faith in it starting out because I was in an office. This condo project was only 2 years old, and there was a team of 5 agents who had done a lot of the pre-construction. They were still with the company, still in the office. So they had worked with all these owners 2-3 years through the pre-construction process, and here comes this new agent who, and so I didn't have a lot of faith in it, but I was trying something. And I think like on the second mailing, I got a listing or 2. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay.
Easy.
Right. Let's do some more of this. So started there. It kind of took off from there because I stayed with those 2 farms for a while, probably 2 or 3 or 4 years before I really added any more farms and realized, this is just repeatable. Right. We're always trying to just repeat and grow. Right. So it sort of took off from there. I think I added 1 more building because I liked the building and I thought about the building, and it's really gone to, I'm running about 10 farms now. Yeah. So it's gone from typing a 1-page letter, hand addressing everything, to postcards. Mm-hmm. Postcards are making it easier. One of the things we're working on right now is trying to, because so many people send postcards, I'm going to try to mix up the piece. So we're going to do some different things next year, and also trying to get the same concept into text messaging, email marketing, social media. Get the same idea of the farm here, but get it where we can do some email marketing, texting back and forth, so we can have a little bit more of a dialogue. Right. But it's just worked really, really well. Yeah, and so, doing that now, I mean, if you've got 10 farms, I mean, in reality, you said it's kind of systematized now. So from that standpoint, are you taking, and it's pretty much the same, it's just different to the different neighborhood, and it's the same type of information for each month? Like this month it's going to be on active pending sales. Next month it's on some kind. How are you managing? Are you doing 10 different pieces, or is it one theme, different neighborhoods? We've mixed in recently, trying to get away with doing the same piece because we're talking about probably 8 condo projects in 2 neighborhoods. Right. So different messaging, of course. So we've recently tried to do 8. I've tried to send the same card to save a little money on design, to save a little time on getting this thing done. Right. Send everybody the same thing, and I don't think the value's there. I sat across, was working with a seller recently who said something. She was talking about how she chose the agent to work with. And she says, I could have gone with so-and-so, but, I kept getting cards from them that talked about this condo over here and this condo over here, and I don't care about that. Right. And I realized, people want to know about where they own. So I really work to tailor the message to each one, so it's specific to each farm. Yeah. We might have a theme, so that when we're working on design, we're working on the same design, But I take the time to make sure that if I'm sending to this condo project, it's got that condo project, those photos in there, that name, the statistics from that building and that, and it has nothing to do with anything else. And then this one over here is just about this. If it's a neighborhood, whatever the message is, it's just about that community. I think that resonates the most. I think the messaging is really, really important. We're not sending out, call me and I'll get your unit sold. Call me and I'll get your unit sold. That's not what it's about. It's more about really just sending something that I think is helpful for an owner that I would want them to know over and over and over and over again. And hopefully at some point then they understand that that's my approach when it comes time to, if we're potentially going to help them sell. It's more about, well, let's talk and see if I can even help you. I may not be the guy to do that. I don't know if your situation is right. I don't know if what you're looking for, if I can help with that or not. So it's all coming from that mindset we talk about a lot of, can we help people? So the messaging and all the pieces is that.
It seems to me too, I mean, it's one of those, I mean, because of your consistency, they may not list with you. I mean, we're not going to get them all, but they can't ignore you. They know that you're there. So you're going to be in front of everybody and top of mind. So it's going to get you your at-bats and your opportunities and you do that. Let's kind of go back because I know how strategic you are now. And when you're looking at a potential new farm, what are you looking at to evaluate whether this would make sense?
It's the whole thing's really evolved because, again, we're running a business. So it went from, I'll pick these two farms because they're close
right.
to now, okay, let's look at profitability. How much potential revenue is there on a farm? What's the competition look like? Those kind of things. So we're getting ready to do it right now. What we'll do is take the 10 farms, look at the money invested in what went out, what marketing we did that year for that farm, and there's more than just mailing now. We've got a little bit more in some of the electronic stuff. But how much did we spend? How many at-bats did we get? How many did we convert? What kind of revenue came in?
Right.
What was the return?
Right.
Okay, do we like that? Let's keep it. We'll do it again for another year. I know 2 or 3 that are going to come off the board, and we're going to try something different. And when we're picking the new farm, it'll just be fundamentals. We're starting a farm. They don't know who I am. I'm 16 years in the business, but it doesn't matter. They don't know who I am. So what's the opportunity like? Is there one agent or team that dominates that community? I'm not afraid of competition, so that's not something that's going to keep me out of a new farm, but it's something to be aware of going into, to set expectations. We'll look at a couple of the most important parts. How much potential revenue do we think is there based on, I'll go back 3 years to 5 years, depending on the product, to see how many sales we've had per year, get an average of per year, what the dollar volume is, what I think the potential fee is going to be out of that. So if I can I started at a 10% number. I think if you're really going to commit to farming, you're trying to get to at least 10% of a neighborhood. We've gone way above that in some farms, but I think you can get that in the first year. You can get more than that in the first year, but I like to plan on the low side. Hey, is this worth, if I can get 10% of market share, is this worth doing?
Right.
And there's one, it's funny because there's the one building in my market that's sort of the crown jewel of the market. And it's one they're a little more expensive, it's a little nicer. And every year I look at it and I want to go in there, but when you do the exercise, you just see that there's really not, for the investment, the revenue's not there. And so I could stroke the ego a little bit and go, oh, look, I sold one of those, I helped sell in here, but it's really not about that. So,
see, I think that's a really good point. I think a lot of times, and I've done it in my career, where you get so distracted by the shiny object of the most popular neighborhood or the most popular condo and the ultra luxury price point that you forget that this business is built on hitting singles. It's not, you're going to have some home runs as long as you keep hitting the singles and you have your at-bats, but I think a lot of times agents, and I've been guilty of it, will get distracted by that and forget to do the basics and the foundational things, and they go into a place where it's just difficult to compete to start with, to come in fresh, and you're literally, the pie is split up so much that there's not enough there to get 10%.
Right. And so, I think, depending on where you are in your business, that still may be something to go for, as long as you understand going into that okay, that maybe I'm trying to get into this community, it's going to take a little longer, there's more competition, but what else might I have going? The singles, I think, right? Where's the consistency? Because it's a volume-based business. We're gonna get leads reach out to us. We're gonna have people reach out to us, but we're not gonna convert all of them. We're gonna get some under contract, but some of those are gonna fall out. So it's how can we get the volume coming in?
What are you most excited about right now in the business that you see? I mean, opportunities, potential, technology.
A couple things. The teams are really exciting for me because this is really the first year. This is really new for me, and it's freshens up the business a little bit. I'm really excited about the potential of it's a really good fit for the group that's in there. A lot of them are in the same place,
right.
So we can seeing what we can get them to do next year and what will be exciting. And still, I don't want to hang on farming, but there's some things we're finding in farming. Maybe it's because we've been doing it a while that have really hit recently. That's sort of just taken off, and it's almost making farming new again. So I'm excited. I just had a conversation on the way over here that I'm really one of the things I'm considering in business plan next year is just leaning into farming and doing more of it. Yeah. Instead of chasing this over here, this over here, this over here, this is working. Let's double it. Let's triple it.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me about playing some. You still getting to play some, playing your sax some?
Yeah, I've played more in 2019 than I probably have in the last 5 or 6 years. And it gets the juices flowing, so I'm practicing more. And it's like anything else, a little opportunity over here leads to some practice. Well, the more you practice, you get a little bit better, So I've gone from, started the year at the end of January playing with some friends of mine who are doing kind of high profile gig, So, they were real amazing. Let me play 1 or 2 tunes with them. Well, played a couple more times this year. Probably going to do it again next year. Now, one of the guys is inviting me to go over to Jacksonville and play a thing with him. Playing some stuff around here with the guys. We got to go harass JD every now and again. So it's fun. It wasn't fun for a while years ago. It was work, and it's really, really fun.
Well, that's cool too. And this is not, I see you do it with your business, as far as you treat every situation like it's the best. I know it was pretty eye-opening for me, when we went out there to Omaha on the trip you and I took, and we're sitting there at the little party, and it's literally a band full of middle schoolers.
Yeah,
and
they have it going on.
And you got up and played with them just like you were playing at a 5,000 seat arena. So I love that and I see you do that with your business as well. So listen, I think there's some people going to take some things away from this that can literally change your business. So I appreciate you more than you know. Tell everybody if they wanted to get in touch with you, if they're seeing this in a different marketplace, they wanted to refer some business to Panama City Beach, how would they get in touch with you?
Yeah, the easiest way, Craig at CraigDuran.com is the easiest way. Email me if you want to give me a call or shoot me a text, 850-527-0221. That's 850-527-0221.
So guys, I know you got something out of this. Listen, give Craig a little shout out. Let him know how much you appreciate this. And as always, if there's anything I can do to help you, don't hesitate to give me a call. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Next up is Molly Slagle out of Houston, Texas. What I love about what Molly does is she's going to share with you some unique ways that you can add value outside of the typical things that people do in geographical farming. Really getting involved in the community, some community events. You're going to get some ideas here that I know you can apply in your business that's going to take your farming to a whole other level. All right, Molly, one of the things that I love that you do in your business is how effectively you do one of the core foundational principles in my mind of how to grow a business, which is geographical farming. Let's start with kind of your experience with geographical farming. What is it you look at in a neighborhood specifically when you're starting?
So everything in what we do is a math game, right? It's a statistic. I pull the statistic for the neighborhood, and if there is it needs to be at least an 11% turnover for it to be something that would be worthy of my time and investment into the effort that it takes to consistently farm a neighborhood. Remine is a program that's really helpful. I know we have access to that, and it gives me the data I need to really also see like how much equity a person has in their home, the age of the homeowner, the age of their children. The data that we have access to it's really mind-blowing, and it can drive if you choose that neighborhood as your farm or not. But really 11% is my sweet spot.
So I will say, really, in my opinion, if you don't do the research in the beginning, you may get lucky a few times, but you're going to miss. This is a way really to increase the opportunity for you to have success. As you mentioned, the 11%. So if we're working on a 1,000 home neighborhood, 110 potential sales on average is what we've been looking at in the past. That gives us really the opportunity really to understand exactly where is our break-even point. How much are we going to spend? For us, I don't know do you figure out how much your average spend is per house on a monthly basis? I know we do.
I do, yeah. It's important to me because I don't want to throw good money at bad, right? And as an aside, the other thing I look at, is there another agent that's leading that neighborhood? I pull those stats. Is there an agent who has more than 50% or at 50% of those sales? If there is, really I need to look at another neighborhood. And then I do pull my stats, my cost per lead on each of those. I try to keep it rolls out to about $2 a home a month.
That's exactly what we do.
I really want to keep my mailers less expensive, so I have some tricks of the trade I like to use there. But I also account for the cost of doing my community events, and one without the other is pointless. You have to be present in the community, both in mail and in face.
Okay, this is great. Let's get real practical on the facts of exactly what a typical month looks like. How far ahead are you planning your content that you're sending out, and what type of content are you sending out?
So I send out 3 major pieces every month. One is a neighborhood-specific newsletter, and that also includes things that are special to Houston. So for example, we just passed bluebonnet season in our community, and one of the best things to do is to get your kids out and take pictures in the bluebonnets. So my newsletter included recent sales, price per square foot, new to the market homes. It also includes the best places to get the best shots with bluebonnets with your kids. And then also some little reminders for that. Bring your sunscreen, bring a blanket, don't reach into the bushes, there might be a snake, so that people want to read it for more than just the real estate. And then there's always a call to action. Remember, I'm your local knowledge expert, I'm your real estate professional you want to work with, and I'm in your neighborhood. Who you work with matters, and I make sure I say that every time. So that's one of the pieces. The other, they get a postcard in the mail, one at the beginning, one at the end of the month, and that really just depends on what season we're in. And one is definitely real estate based. It is here are 2 homes in the market, here's a recent sale, that kind of thing. And the other is like a green tip for growing your garden, or I really stay away from the recipes. I know a lot of people love them, but I have recently tried to do a more like a green friendly theme to what I've been doing. And then when the holidays roll around, they get an additional mailer, and it's always something fun related to whatever that holiday might be.
Yeah, so 3 mailers a month. I mean, there's no doubt that they're knowing who you are.
100%.
Absolutely. So now, how are we going to reinforce that? You're getting these 3 mailers. What are you doing community event-wise? You mentioned that.
Yeah, so the reason that I needed the newsletter in the beginning was because I needed some way to tell people about the cool stuff I do in their neighborhood. And so to me, it seemed like the perfect blend, right? So for example, every Christmas or holiday season in December, I do a holiday hayride. And so my face is present, and numerous times I'll be out walking the dog and people will be like, oh, you're that realtor. You're the one who does the holiday hayride. We love that event. We can't wait for it this year. I invited my parents to come down, that kind of thing. So it gets my face out there, and it reminds them of my events. So I do, as I said, the holiday hayride. I do pet portraits at Valentine's. I do an end of school year water balloon fight and snow cone stand. So as the kids get off the bus on the last day of school, they come out, and there are ready prepared water balloons at each front door, so the parents can just go to town pelting the kids with water balloons as they get off the bus. And that is so fun. People have come to expect that this neighborhood does that event. And a variety of other things, we love to just get people together for like a wreath making event, for just a cocktail hour. I've done wine tastings, we've done whiskey contests. So whatever I feel like I can get in there, be creative, and get people out of their homes, right? We are the curators of our communities. We have a blessing in that regard, and a responsibility to be the curator of our community. Make it the awesome place you want to live, because they're going to want to live there too. Do the things you find fun that you know is going to get them out, meet their neighbors, become that community that we all really want to live in.
So this could get expensive. Are you using any sponsors, or how are you keeping your costs down on some of this?
It does get expensive. I do, well, one, I use my local resources so much. Like, I'm a member of the mothers groups in each of my farms, and give some moms an opportunity to pull out their favorite craft activity, or they want to donate this, they want to do that, because they also are curators of the community, right? So they'll always jump on board very quickly. I'll reach out and say, hey guys, I've kind of got this idea. What do you think you could, how could we make this better? And they'll volunteer that. I also am generously supported by my favorite lenders, my financial advisor, my title company. And when you reach out to them with an idea like, I think this is going to be really fun, would you guys like to jump in? Almost all the time they want to. Yeah, this coming Thursday, I've got a really great event coming up with my financial advisor.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, and this keeps the cost down.
Yes.
But it keeps your exposure high. Now, let's say you get those listings in those places. How are you making sure that you're maximizing the opportunity to let people see you doing business in those neighborhoods? What does that look like? Is it postcards? Is it what are you doing?
So it's signage. I always put out really fun open house signs, always. And I typically invite, as part of my open house budget, some kind of like taco truck, snow cone stand, iced coffee, whatever, because it also garners the attention of that open house right out front. And that was something that really came along in COVID too, because we were, having to do appointments and that kind of thing to get into an open house. My mailers are a big deal. I am very, very specific about how my mailers go out when a home is coming on the market. They get a coming soon, a just listed, and then I do one additional, if I need to do a price adjustment or just a new photo on the front, and like some other fun tagline about the neighborhood. But yeah, I do a lot of mailers. Yeah.
What do you consider a successful farm after a year? Because maybe sometimes it doesn't work.
Right.
What do you do if it, with where you consider it a success? Do you continue that? Do you go in deeper with that one? What do you do when you find one that maybe is not as successful?
So after you're asked about a year, I don't actually consider a year a long enough time to work on a farm. A year is like a drop in the bucket. So if you're jumping on for geofarming, be prepared to be there for 2 years, really, because you can't see the efforts of your labor until you've been there about 2 years. If I'm not getting, I add up what the costs are to do these things. If I'm not getting a listing that one covers, right, or a sale that covers that cost, and then an additional, then I'll really look at it. Because if I'm only getting 2 listings or 2 deals out of geofarming, I'm probably not doing something right. If my numbers with 11%, there's not another agent, then I'm not doing something right. So before I scrap the whole farm, I literally just look down and say, okay, well, what am I doing wrong that I could do better, that I could do differently?
Right, that's good. All right, listen, I know this has been a value to people. Molly, if someone wanted to reach out to you in Houston, Texas, what would be the best way to do so?
I would love them to. I am Molly Sold It on Instagram and Facebook, and of course you can go to mollysoldit.com.
All right, good stuff. I know you got some value. Reach out, let Molly know how much you appreciate it, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Next up is Jason Gruner out of Nashville, Tennessee. Jason really focuses in on the luxury market. So if you're thinking about going into a farming area that is a luxury market, this is a great way for you to learn how to do this and to really grow your business in a way that helps you focus in on specific neighborhoods with specific values. Jason, this is going to be fun for me because I love hearing the process.
Sure.
And then seeing what's happening in the midst of all that you're doing. So we're going to talk about luxury farming today and the things that you've done. One of the things that's interesting to me is obviously you have the process in place beforehand. I think some people, the mistake they make is they don't spend the time on the front end to make sure they're in the right place or have the process in place that when the leads come, they're ready to execute on those. So let's start at the beginning. What was it that you did when you were first trying to choose a specific area? Is there something that you looked at?
Sure, absolutely. So I'm a little bit different than most agents because I want to figure out how can I get a seller to call me. That's the end all goal. I don't want to cold call.
Right.
I don't even really want to call someone who's requested a market report right away because I feel like I'm talking to a stranger. I want that person to call me. So in my mind, I need to add value first. And so when I'm looking at a spot, I need to pick an area that makes sense. I run it through, I think it's 5 criteria that I go through. Minimum $10 million in volume trailing 12 months. I need a turnover of at least 6%. It's an area that I want to work in. And it's an area that I'm going to get excited about. So that's just 4 reasons. So that's the biggest thing for me. And then I always look to see if there's a dominant agent. But spoiler alert, there's never a dominant agent. True. I've looked at, so I own a print shop. And so agents come to me and like, hey, I want to farm an area. I'm worried because this person really I was like, let's look at the numbers. I've looked at 400 different neighborhoods. I've never found an agent that does more than 25%. It's extremely rare. Everybody thinks there's one, but there never is. So that's like the fifth one. But so those are the biggest things for me. There has to be enough volume there. There needs to be enough turnover there. It needs to be somewhere that I want to work and that I get excited about.
Yeah.
So when I did that for me in South Nashville, I knew I wanted to target luxury. So there are 4 big areas of South Nashville near where I live. I live in one of them. It's Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, and 12 South. Those are all within a 3-mile radius of my home. There's 1.1 billion sold, trailing 12 months. Now it's big. It's 13,000 homes. But the turnover was over 6%, and the average deal was $1.25 million. So those all lined up and make sense. Now, it's a big bite to chew off because it's 12,500 homes. But before I did this, obviously I talked to you a year ago before I actually implemented anything, and I talked to a bunch of guys who were like geo farm guys. And I said, if you could do it again, what would you do differently? To a T, everyone said I would have gone bigger earlier. I started with one little one, and then after I got some listings a year later, if I know what I knew then, I would have started much bigger at the beginning. So I was like, all right, well, let's not make that mistake. Let's just do this entire area.
Right. So let's talk about what that looks like as far as farming to that group.
Yep.
Because we're talking about geo. Obviously, this involves print. This involves video. This involves different things. What does the typical monthly output look to add value to those folks?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I do that I committed to is I wanted something that was easy in terms of once I've set it up once, it's easy to replicate every month. So the first of the month, I send a big yellow postcard. Dean Jackson came up with this, and it's the market report for that area. So it's like the Oak Hill Homes Price Report for October 2022. If you're curious what homes are selling for in Oak Hill, we've put together a free report that will show every home sold over the last 12 months. We also include all active and pending deals. You can download this for free at oakhillhomesreport.com, and we put a little QR code. We do it's bright yellow, 6x12 postcard. It has a picture of the report on it, and you flip it over, and it's basically the same copy. And we just try to get them to go to that website. Then it's a simple landing page that we build that is stupid simple. Name, email, address, phone number, and they submit from there. And so I send that out the first of the month. We typically get about a 1% response rate on that.
Yeah.
And then we mail a big, fancy, it's 11 by 17, stapled down the middle, CMA report for that area. So here's the October Oak Hill Homes Price Report. Picture on the front of it, and it's got a letter from me just kind of explaining what happened the last 30 days, or telling a recent success story, or telling a story in the market of like, oh, this development's going on over here. Here's how it's going to affect you. We are seeing more, as we're transitioning in October 2022, we are seeing more inventory on the market. It just means it's going to be more competitive. However, we're seeing prices hold.
Right.
And the ones that are overpriced sit, and the guys that price strategically and market correctly are still selling very, very quickly. Just whatever that is, just that opening one. And then I just do a basic CMA. Here's what sold the last 30 days. Here's what's currently on the market. And then we've actually partnered with our lender to do the middle spread on it, so he helps share the cost of those reports, which is obviously great.
Absolutely. So that's month one.
Yep.
Is that every month? That is every single month.
Every month.
Okay.
I'll commit to that until I quit doing real estate.
Okay, great. So it's every month it comes just like that.
Yep.
The repetition of it, and it's just they see the same thing.
100%. They see that same postcard every month, the first of the month, and if they've requested the report, they get that report every month.
Right.
When I go to a listing appointment, they usually set down a stack of 6, 8, 10 reports of like, okay, we get all your reports. We know what's going on. How are we going to sell this house?
Right. It's great.
It's just something, and putting something physical in their hands on a consistent basis is something almost no one does. Everybody sends a postcard when they sell a house, or they try it out for a week, or they send it to their personal network and sphere. But most people don't consistently do it to a farm. And it just builds and builds and builds, and it snowballs and snowballs and snowballs. And I just think the physical component of sending physical mail to someone is a huge, huge opportunity.
I would agree. So is that the extent of all the mailings that you're doing, or are there different mailers that you add in?
So if I take a listing or I have a good success story, I will send that postcard to that target area. So if I do it outside of the area, it doesn't quite hit as well. Like, oh, I sold this house down in Franklin. They don't really care. But if I sell one in Oak Hill, it's like, hey, I just put this home, your neighbor's home, under contract. That captures their attention. I know they're going to read it. They're going to read the story. I'll put a link to a video about it. So again, just so we can cookie them and capture their info.
Right.
and start following them around digitally
Right.
after we've captured them through the direct mail. Obviously, when they get the postcard, they go to that Oak Hill Homes report. We tag them. We tag them with the Facebook tag and the Google tag. So then we're following them around. So the next time they go to YouTube, there's that guy who sends all the postcards talking about some lake house or talking about why we should try to sell our home the first weekend or talking whatever it might be. You just have that opportunity to be in front of those people on a consistent basis digitally and really achieve that omnipresent feel.
Yeah. So we talked about the direct mail portion. What are some other things that you're doing, obviously digitally and some of those things?
Sure. So I will film a market report where I just basically read that first letter. I'll do it in a vertical video format, so we can do it on short form video, which is Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and LinkedIn. And then I'll usually just do a normal horizontal video one that we'll do just kind of a little bit more in depth, 2 to 3 minutes long. Here's what's going on in Oak Hill. We saw 7 homes sell. This one went for 6.5, whatever it is, and just kind of go into a little bit more depth. We'll email those videos to anyone who's ever responded. I'll obviously post them on all the platforms. You can't get as granular like you used to be able to say, like, do this 1 mile radius of just people in Oak Hill. So you have to spread it around a little more. But it's just putting that video out there and the call to action on all those. If you'd like to download the free report, I can send you a copy. Just go to oakhillhomesreport.com. So it's just another touch where you're getting in front of those folks. In addition to the postcard, they're seeing it. Because again, someone who goes to Oak Hill Homes Report and gives you their name, email, phone number, like that's a real lead. Even if it's a buyer lead and they just want to know what's going on, it's not just they clicked one button and you got their name and email. It's there's intent there for that human who went there to that website and gave you all their info.
Yeah. So are you promoting any of those? Like, I mean, we mentioned the video portion. Are you boosting some of those?
100%.
And how does that look? Are you targeting just that specific area, or is it kind of a little more generic?
So on YouTube, you can go down to a little bit smaller area, but they flag it a lot just because it's housing. So they're going to have those restrictions. I have faith in the algorithm that if I do a 15-mile radius for Facebook, and it says, attention Oak Hill homes owners in the copy, the only people who are really going to respond to that and they'll eventually show it to are the people who are either interested in moving to Oak Hill or live in Oak Hill. Right. So again, for $50 or $100, you're showing this video to a couple thousand people, and we always get leads, because we can track it all, we always get leads from the digital side as well as the postcards. And again, once you've cookied them and you can follow them around, I mean, it's just a really effective way to stay in front of them.
Yeah, you know what I love too is you're 8 months into this process with this. So let's talk about some of those things that surprised you, maybe, good and bad. Maybe some things that you wish you would have known when you started that you're doing now.
Yep. Though if I could do it over again, I probably would have done half the size that I would have done, and I would have done 12 postcards for the first 12 weeks. I just think just that consistency of that first week, after 12 weeks, it's like, all right, this guy knows Oak Hill or Green Hills or whatever. And it gives you the probability of a quick win faster, which is good. So any agent that wants to do farming, I would strongly recommend 12 postcards the first 12 weeks. For me, this is a 2-decade deal for me. I'm 40. I will probably work the next 2 decades. So I will let's spread a little bit wider, test a couple different areas. I'll do one a month for now, but potentially scale up once we have it. So that would be the biggest thing on the postcard side of it. Surprising wise, it has been kind of what I expected. You see a 0.5% to 1.5% response rate, and it varies. So it averages right about 1%. Of those 12,500 after 7 mailings, it's 450 people have responded. So it's right in line with where I want to be. And again, I'm at a luxury price point, so it's going to be a little bit lower. Which is natural. I mean, just not going to, the guy living in an $8 million house doesn't flip through the postcards that he gets mailed. I mean, a lot, they all do eventually. So it's going to be the 6th one or the 7th one versus someone who's in a transitioning neighborhood where they know they're going to be there 3 to 5 years, stuff catches their eye more. You will get a higher response rate at a lower price point. But again, I'm building something for it's a 2-decade plan.
Yeah, that's great. So let's talk about this, because listen, a lot of people are listening to this sounds great. But a lot of times it's that one success story that I remember. We talked about the power of story before. Let's talk about, was there one that just really stood out, that where they've been in the process and it just...
I mean, there's you can't explain, like when someone calls you that it's a complete stranger. I've mailed pieces of cardboard and pieces of paper to, and they say, I understand you're the expert for my area. Can you come talk to me about listing my house? Mm-hmm. It's like, that's such a different experience than any sort of prospecting, any sort of lead you could ever get. It's better than a referral.
Right.
Because like these people are already pre-sold. Like a referral is like, hey, my buddy used you. Can you come talk to me about it? This is like, okay, you're the guy just because you've sent me these messages. So when you get a call like that, I mean, it's just it flips the script, and like you're consulting with these people on how you're going to sell the home. So that's been great. The other one is, so what we do is, the other thing we'll do, the only thing I'll do outside of an email once a month, a report once a month, and then the postcards is if I have an active buyer, I'll find homes that line up that have responded and requested the report. And so I don't really enjoy working with buyers a whole lot.
Right.
I'll do it if they're very specific on what they want. So the perfect buyer for me is either someone who knows what street they want to live on or a builder developer. Mm-hmm. So I reached out to a couple of the high-end builders in Nashville. I was like, hey, what do you guys want? They're like, find me a lot in this area. I will write a check for it. It's like, okay, I have a list of a bunch of people here who might want to sell. And so send them an email. It's like, hey, I've got a client who's looking for something in 12 South. I remember you requested the report. Guy emails me back. He's like, if you give me this number, I'll do it. Call the builder. It's like, hey, will you do this? He's like, yes. Perfect. I'll close in 30 days.
That's great.
Well, this was for 1.15.
Right.
He's going to tear it down. He's going to build a duplex for 4.8 and list it with me.
Yeah. So it's that process of just going through that. Consistency, seeing those things happen. Jason, this is really good stuff. Listen, listen. If you're listening to this, be encouraged. It is the consistency. Some people, like you said, want the first original win, and listen, it happens. But understand the process, trust the process, do the consistency, and then Jason can attest. You're going to see the results. I hope this has been helpful, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Well, if you've stuck around to the end of this video, I promise you know more now than most people do. I would say over 90% of the agents in real estate today do about geographical farming. Now's the time for you to take all of that information and begin to boil it down to what it is specifically that you want to do in your current market. When you do that and you apply it and you take massive action, I promise you this year will be your best year. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. I specifically chose the video below for you because it builds on the one you just watched. I hope it's helpful, and I'll talk to you soon.